Hi everybody, this video is on the full moon in Pisces, which is happening on the 6th of September, and it occurs at 2 minutes past 8 in the morning, and that's based on British summertime. Now, this one has kind of snuck up on me a little bit. We're at the beginning of September here already, and I haven't talked about this full moon yet, so I'm sorry I'm a little bit late with this one. As with every full moon, the sun and the moon are 180 degrees apart. The sun kind of illuminates the moon completely, and the moon reaches its completion point. It's kind of this point where it's been building up towards all month, and when the full moon happens, it kind of releases, it's complete, it lets go, and it showers us with its energy. Now in this case, it's going to be Pisces energy because the moon is in Pisces. It's at 13 degrees, which is 4. So the interesting thing that is going to happen here is that a lot of this Pisces energy, especially emotional certainty, is going to come in, and it's a great opportunity to really look at your feelings and to identify what's going on with you. I talked about this when I looked at when I did the weekly horoscope, but this is going to be an emotional full moon because it is Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. In the traditional chart, it rules the 12th house, so it's at the very end of the zodiac. It's a water sign, and it's associated with spirituality, intuition, creativity, feelings, compassion, empathy, self-sacrifice, being part of a community, sharing, taking care of other people, being considerate of other people's needs. But in this case, it kind of happens for you. So rather than being considerate and self-sacrificing for everyone else in your life, I really think you make some time for yourself and you say, well, what about me and my feelings? And you actually take the time to take stock of what's going on. And I would really urge you to do that because you'll be able to get some answers. And I say that because of that 13 degrees. 1 and 3 is 4. And 4 in numerology is the vibration that has to do with security, structure, foundation. It's like the emperor in the tarot. He sits on a concrete slab, and if you've got a nice concrete slab, a nice foundation, then you can build a house on it, can't you? But unless you have that foundation, that emotional foundation, you won't be able to build on it because you don't have the security to underpin what you want to build. So to get that foundation, to get that concrete slab in your life, so to speak, is to look at your own feelings and to see where you're actually at in life. I mean, this year has been quite interesting in many ways, in that it's taught a lot of us a lot of lessons about ourselves and how our view of ourselves is really distorted from the reality of what's actually going on in the world, and often how we're perceived in the world. Our own kind of understanding of ourselves can be off. We can sometimes be blinded towards certain character traits that we have. It's really easy to identify someone else's flaws, isn't it? To say, oh, that person is really selfish or inconsiderate. But it's much harder to really identify what your flaws are. When you turn that critical eye on yourself, it suddenly takes on a whole different attitude. It becomes much softer, it becomes much gentler. So don't think that this full moon is about self-criticism. It really isn't. It's not sitting yourself and saying, these are your character flaws, bad boy, bad girl. It's about just allowing yourself to be, laying things bare, and just looking at yourself and loving yourself regardless of what's there. The trick to, everyone's always going on about love yourself, and you've got to love yourself before you can love anyone else. But the trick that I found, and that sometimes I still struggle with, is there are certain parts of myself, and I'm sure that you experience this too, that there are certain parts of yourself that you're not particularly happy with, and that you'd like to change, and there are certain parts of ourselves that we can't change. And the trick of loving yourself is to love yourself as a whole, including those negative traits, and to embrace the whole thing. And that's really what this full moon gives you an opportunity for, because it's quiet, it's calm, it's emotionally kind of deep, but you have the distance, the emotional distance and objectivity, so you can actually look at yourself and learn about yourself. Now the moon forms a conjunction, which means it blends its energy with Neptune, the dream planet, which sits 1 degree away from it, also in Pisces. Now, Neptune is the planet of dreams, imagination. It's the water planet. It's Neptune. It's the king of the sea. Everything that's associated with Pisces is also associated with Neptune, because Neptune actually rules Pisces. And this full moon is in Pisces. Neptune, the ruler, is sitting 1 degree away. So that heightens this emotional state even more. And Neptune gives us the ability to really look beyond the veil and to really go much deeper than we ever could. The combination of Neptune and the moon here is the reason why we're going to be able to go so deep on this day. Now, Neptune is at 12 degrees. 1 and 2 is 3. And 3 is about communication, the exchange of ideas, expression, and the exchange of information. And who you're doing that with is yourself. So it's really time to learn about yourself. I'm trying to think of an example to really highlight how important it is to take inventory. If you have a business, I think this is a 12-step example, but if you have a business, you have to do a stock take. You have to do a stock inventory, don't you, once in a while, to see what you have to sell, what's being sold, what you need to order, what your expenses are. You need to take stock of the things that are going on with the business so that you can maintain the business and it can be successful. This full moon is an opportunity to see yourself as a business and to take personal inventory of yourself, what your liabilities are, what your assets are, what is going on in your life. Are you completely isolated? Are you surrounded by lots of loving family and friends? You're able to look at all of that without immediately getting triggered and hooked into it and upset. So if I look at my life and I say, I live alone and I feel lonely and I wish I had a partner, then that may be the case, but during this full moon, you'll be able to look at that reality and say, this is where I'm at. I'm not triggered by it. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to be swept away on a wave of emotion. But what I can do is identify what I don't like and what I do like. And then that example that I used, for instance, I can make a decision whether I want to make changes. Do I want to live with do I want to have a roommate? Do I want to start dating to find a partner? Do I want to get a pet? Whatever it is. You've got to differentiate, between the things that you've got no control over, that you have total control over, and that you have some control over. Things that you have no control over, forget about. You don't need to worry about that anyway. So the past is done. If you're constantly living in the past and you're unable to let it go, you're causing yourself a lot of unnecessary anxiety because you can't go back and fix it. The things that you have total control over, you also don't need to worry about because you're in control. I.e., I'm going to make myself spaghetti now, so I go and make myself spaghetti. Total control. I have the spaghetti, I have the water, I have the electricity, I have the sauce. Done. The things that we have some control over are these emotional things within us, our desires, what we want, and our character flaws. And it's by first identifying them, and then you can make a choice. You can either say, I'm going to set an internal goal to make a change. So for example, if you suffer with loneliness, as I said in the example, then you make the internal goal that you're going to do something about that. But make sure that you leave the outcome up to the universe to prevent yourself from getting more upset and being devastated if things don't go your way. The things that you have some control over, you've got to make sure you differentiate your part in it, what you can do, and the things that you can't do anything about, you've got to leave that up to other people. So if you are single and you want to find a partner, the internal goal can be, I'm going to open myself up to relationships, I'm going to ask a friend to set me up, or I'm going to go on a dating app or whatever it is, and I'm going to put up a profile. That is your side of the street. That's what you can do, correct? Whether someone's actually interested and whether someone gets in touch with you or whether someone responds to your message, that's out of your control. So don't worry about that and only look at what you're dissatisfied with in your life right now, what you would like to manifest in the future, and then make a decision whether you're going to act or not. No one's forcing you to take action. If you want to stay in a situation that you don't like, you can do that. If you're not ready to make a change, if it feels too difficult, no one's forcing you. But if you are willing to make a change, if you do want to make a change, it's a great opportunity to do so. Now, the moon also forms a semi-square, which means it's 45 degrees away from Uranus in Aries. Uranus is the planet of rebellion and eccentricity and power. In Aries, it's really, really powerful because Aries likes to move forward and to progress and to blast obstacles out of its way. Okay? So this is going to energize you, and it's going to say, oh, you've now identified what you feel. Let's take action. You're empowered. Let's go and get what it is that I want. That's the friction that Uranus is going to bring to this event here. So make sure that you don't let yourself be, that you don't let your passion and your desire and your sense of impatience, don't let that govern you. Still think about the things that you're doing, that you have some control over, and make a decision whether you want to get involved or not, whether you feel this is the right time to make a change or not. The impulsiveness of Uranus, if you go into this day thoughtlessly, you will identify the emotional things and you will instantly say, okay, I've got to make a change about this. I've got to make a change to this. There's no question, I've got to act now. And really, it's not that urgent. You can make a choice here. This is like an astrological therapy session. You're being shown what is. The universe in this case is kind of contextualizing where you're at. You're seeing yourself from a bigger perspective, a detached perspective, so that you're not sucked into all of these feelings. And you have total control over what you're going to do with this information. The moon also sextiles Pluto in Capricorn. So a sextile is a positive, harmonious relationship. And the moon forms this relationship with Pluto, the planet of transformation, rebirth, and change, which is at 16 degrees in Capricorn. Now, Pluto in Capricorn indicates that genuine changes can be made in your physical, real-world life. At 16 degrees, 1 in 6 is 7, it's about mind and creativity. So you can see where I'm going with this. The changes that you can implement during this time will not come by an external force where your father says you've got to move house or your employer says we're putting you in a different department. You get emotional information come up within you. You have the choice and you have the desire to take action on that. If you choose to take action, if you're ready, if you want to make changes, if you're okay with that process, if you take action on this day to make changes, whether that's internal or you decide to do something and you set a goal and you take the action, Pluto in Capricorn is going to help you to make those transformations that you want. So, sometimes we want to make changes and Saturn is sitting right in front of us saying, no, nothing is going to change. You can bang your head against the wall as much as you like. You can feel as much as you like, but we're all set, thank you. No change necessary. The moon does work with Pluto here though, not Saturn. So you really are able to make the changes that you want. So that's why, again, it's so important to look at who you are, and what your plans and dreams are. And that's not static either. You're going to have very different desires at 15 than you do at 45. So it's about being in the here and now and honoring yourself in the here and now and what it is where you're at right now, not in 2 years or 5 years ago, where you're at now and what you can do to give yourself that sense of, I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing the best I can. And even though I realize not everything is within my control, I am going to try my best and leave the rest up to the universe. And really that's all we can do often, especially during this time of this full moon. The information comes up, be grateful for that, and then make a choice about how you're going to proceed. So, does the moon form any other relationships? Let me have a look. Yes, it does. It forms a quincunx, which is when two planets are 150 degrees away. It forms a quincunx with Venus in Leo, and that's wonderful because this is a positive influence on this moon. Venus in Leo is at 13 degrees. We've got another 4 here. 1 and 3 is 4. So Venus in Leo is the goddess of love at her most extravagant, at her most glamorous, at her most glorious, at her most famous, beautiful, and striking. 4 degrees is about solidity and it's about structure. So it's about looking at how you can bring passion into your life and how you can bring passion into your life that's not fleeting and temporary, but that's consistent. So the changes or the information that you get within yourself, there's a reason that this is coming up. And if you're able to make changes and get rid of some of the junk and get rid of some of the things that you do not want to focus on or invest more energy in, then you're able to use that energy instead to replace it with something that is going to lead to you having more love in your life consistently. So again, let's say during this full moon you discover that you're really a very inconsiderate person and that you don't spend a lot of time thinking about other people. You don't immediately go down a shame spiral and say, oh my God, I've been so inconsiderate for the last 50 years. You look at it, you see it, and you say, do I want to continue being inconsiderate or do I want to make a change? And if you're willing to make a change, that then automatically leads you to a place where you get rid of that, you become considerate, for instance, or you become more loving. And that, again, forms a nice structure, a foundation, 1 and 3 being 4, Venus at 13 degrees in Leo. You build this new foundation where, this sounds corny as anything, but the house that love built. You can build on a foundation of love, and the emotional stuff that's coming up and the things that are being shown to you are not from a critical standpoint, like I said earlier, but they're designed and they're coming in to help you live a more loving and consistently fulfilling life. So don't shy away from looking at yourself and looking at your flaws. It's not easy to do. No one likes to admit how they're wrong or where they don't, do particularly well. And some people are incapable of being honest with themselves. I certainly was in denial for a very long time, and sometimes you're just not ready. If you do feel ready, if you feel like you're able to look at what's going on and you're able to face the truth of who you really are, this is a wonderful opportunity to replace. You can call them character flaws, or you can call them negative character traits or negative behavior patterns. You will be able to work with them, and with this quincunx with Venus, what will replace that? Nature does not like a vacuum. When something is empty, it immediately becomes filled with something else. And what it's going to be filled with is Venus in Leo at 13 degrees, which is consistent passion and love. And that could mean that you discover that you have a love for volunteering. If you were that inconsiderate person and you decide, I'm not going to do that anymore, you may feel drawn to now go do some charity work and to be considerate, and even to go to the other extreme and to become selfless. Again, the main thing is that this is under your control, and you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. No one's going to force you to make changes, and only do what feels comfortable. Only do what you feel you can deal with. Because if you're someone who criticizes themselves anyway, this is kind of murky territory. Because if you're someone who criticizes themselves a lot, and now you have this opportunity to really look at yourself, but you're biased against yourself, I'm not good enough, I failed, and I didn't do this right, and didn't do this right, you may approach this with a negative outlook and start really berating yourself. That if you find yourself doing that during this time, then immediately stop and stop the introspection process and go out and have fun. It means you're not ready. If you're berating yourself, if you're beating yourself up, you're not supposed to do this work just yet. You need to wait until you're ready. Because this is not about berating yourself, it's about loving yourself. And change does not come from criticism, ever. Change comes from love. You can criticize someone for years and that person will become, as a result, more entrenched in that behavior. Or you can criticize yourself for years, but that's not going to change how you behave. Once you start loving the other person, or you start loving yourself, then organically change comes in and is allowed to kind of come in and make changes on its own accord. And the thing that wants to come into you today, the thing that wants to come into your life is love. I think we could all use more love in our lives, whether that's love for ourselves, for the world, for the universe, for other people, for nature, animals, whatever it is. More love, I think, is always going to be good. So, does the moon form any other relationships? I'm just having a look at this chart. No, that's it, I think. Well, I mean, the sun is in Virgo. I can talk about that a little bit, but because it illuminates the moon. So the energy of the moon is really more important. The sun is only what kind of provides the light, the electricity, so to speak, okay? But the sun is in Virgo at 13 degrees as well, so that's another 4. So the sun in Virgo is kind of like we're analyzing everything that's going on. So it is this Virgo sun actually that projects its light onto the Pisces moon. And it's because of that analytical and detail and the minutiae detail that Virgo loves so much that you're able to open up the emotional floodgates and look at what's going on inside of you. And we all need to do that. That inventory, that stock take, so important sometimes, because sometimes we sabotage ourselves without even knowing it. And unless, it's very easy for other people to point out, but if you're someone, you know, if you've just moved and you're alone and you don't have anyone to point things out to you, or if you don't want other people to point out your flaws, you want to do it yourself, then this is a day where you can be your own personal guru, your own personal therapist, and you can make progress by yourself simply by looking. Just have a really good look. And if you're scared to go there alone, then ask your guides, your angels, your ancestors, God, your higher power to go with you. You know, our own feelings aren't always easy to face, and sometimes we do need help. So that's it. That's what I get for this full moon. I hope you have a wonderful time. It looks like it can potentially be a life-changing event. What I'm going to be doing on this day is I'm going to spend 20-40 minutes meditating and seeing what I get. I might even make a list in terms of the things I value and the things that I don't value, just so I have it in black and white. For me, I'm a visual person, so when I see things down on paper, they can often seem much simpler than they do up here in my head, where it's connected to everything else and it becomes so big and powerful. When it's on paper in black and white, it's usually very simple, and often as soon as you write something down, you can see it for what it is and it stops having a hold over you. And then you can look at what you want to get rid of and what you want to replace. And the best thing to replace it with on this day is with love. So ask yourself, how, now that I've stopped in this negative behavior or in this negative way of thinking, how can I be more loving towards myself, towards the world, and towards other people? And I'm very, very sure that you will get a message via this full moon in Pisces, which is going to give you the guidance of how you can be more loving and thereby bring more love into your life. So this is an amazing opportunity. I hope you have a wonderful time here during this full moon. If the night is clear and you actually get to see it, I love seeing the full moon. I don't think we're going to be that lucky here in England. It's not been very good, the weather lately. So if you'd like a private reading with me, then please get in touch with me via my website. What I can do is I can draw up your birth chart, which is basically a blueprint of your soul, and I can put the transits around that birth chart to see where this full moon is actually occurring for you, which house it's occurring in. So it can happen in your first house of self. That would be ideal because then you really look at yourself. It could happen in your fifth house of romance, then you examine the things that are going on in your romantic life. Also good. If it's in the ninth, then examine, where you're blocked, where your mind is closed, what you're not willing to learn, where you're not open, where you're stubborn, and where you're entrenched in your own faulty beliefs, for instance. So that's useful. Also, having the chart, it allows me to look at what your life purpose is, what your vocational aptitudes are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and using the tarot and the predictive astrology, so the progress chart and the transit, I can look at what's coming up for you in future in all areas of your life. So in terms of your health, your career, your love life, your finances, spiritual progress, it's really all there, which is why I love working with divination tools, because it's literally all there. So please visit the website if you're interested in that. It's gregoryscott.com. Click on the readings tab to order your reading. Please remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you enjoyed the video. And I'll speak to you soon with the daily tarot readings that I do, the weekly horoscopes that I do for all signs of the zodiac, and the monthly forecast for each sign of the zodiac. I do that as well. So that's the sun sign astrology. So I do that for Pisces and Taurus and Aries and Virgo and Sagittarius and Capricorn, all those signs. So check out some of those other videos. It kind of helps you piece things together, because if you look at the video for your sun sign for September, in that video I say what house this is going to occur in for your sun sign. So short of a personal reading, watching those monthly horoscopes, that's as close as you're going to get to finding out what area of the chart this is going to happen in for you. So have a wonderful time. Get in touch with me if you'd like, and I'll speak to you soon.